thank you so much for coming out on this walk with me today. I'm just so excited you could be with me.
Yes, of course. Happy to be here.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your interests and what you're focused on here at Wake Forest.
So I'm an associate professor of health and exercise science. In the classroom, I teach undergraduates nutrition and health and disease. I also teach a class called epidemiology to undergraduates. I mentor undergraduate and graduate students in the lab, and I have an externally funded research program focused on optimizing weight loss interventions in older adults.
In terms of, studying weight loss in older adults, how did you get interested in that?
I'm a registered dietitian by training, and I've always been interested in the preventive side of health. I'm also an avid runner, and my PhD is in exercise, nutrition, and preventive health. The program that I graduated from was kind of a human performance lab, so interested in how can we make an athlete bigger, faster, stronger. But what I learned is that the same kind of interventions that might make an athlete bigger, faster, stronger could also be used to keep an older adult living independently longer.
That's a really interesting connection between different types of studies having impact on each other. So tell me, how do you do that work here in terms of studying the weight loss and the impact on older adults? What resources do you use?
So I'm in the health and exercise science department. We have a kind of a great one-stop shop for clinical research facilities. So we have a body composition lab, a physical function lab, strength testing lab. We also have an off-site clinical research center, which is where we'll deliver our interventions. So we have an indoor walking track that participants can use, 2 strength training circuits, a smart classroom. And then what we don't have here, I often partner with folks from the School of Medicine to extend what we can do.
Right. Well, I've seen that clinical site where you work with older adults. We had a big student research fair there every year.
We are fortunate to have it for sure. There aren't many health and exercise science programs in the country that have that kind of dedicated space for the research that we do.
Who are you doing that with? Are you engaging students or other faculty?
Oh yes, so we have a fleet of students who participate in our research studies, which is really awesome because the types of interventions we do sort of lend itself naturally to that. Any given semester, we probably have 12 students participating with our research, which is for hands-on experiential learning opportunities. And then, in addition to that, we'll have students working on undergraduate honors thesis projects, master's thesis projects. I work with some doctoral students at the School of Medicine.
Coming back to thinking about the fact you're teaching in the classroom and you're also doing this amazing research. Why are you engaged in both?
I think at the heart of a good researcher is a good teacher and vice versa. Communicating your scientific ideas clearly to the intended audience is something that transcends, both worlds. I know as a student myself, I benefited from having really caring, engaged, thoughtful mentors, and I'd like to do that for the next generation of biomedical researchers, clinician scientists, healthcare workers, wherever the Wake Foresters go on after this.
You also have talked about, how this impacts society, right? How do you share your results in terms of getting this message out to older adults or to those who are caring for older adults?
We will be publishing these findings in academic journals, giving talks at conferences. Certainly giving talks to local community groups is something that we often do. We're kind of on the precipice of getting to that with some of the studies we're doing now, so it'll be exciting to disseminate this to the communities that have really benefited from it.
Right. So I want to know personally for me, what are the most important things to ensure that I have the best healthy outcomes?
People want to lose weight, they want to lose fat. But some of what you lose is not fat, and so it's sort of like what can we do to kind of maximize the fat loss, minimize the muscle bone loss? And we found that if you are going to diet, that having higher levels of protein, calcium, vitamin D, all those things are important for musculoskeletal health. But looking at a weighted vest to minimize muscle and bone loss, if you can kind of sneak resistance training into a walk, that's helpful.
So I need you to bring a weighted vest the next time we go on a walk?
Yes, exactly. If I practice what I preach, yes.
Okay. What do you think your students get the most out of in terms of when they engage in these clinical trials with you or these clinical research projects?
I think that we have a really unique opportunity for our students here to participate in studies that have been funded because they are likely to impact care. And so they get to be on the front edge of that, and be active participants, which I think is really, again, something that's really neat about our program. There's let's say 12 students a semester times 5 years of an
Right.
R1. That's a lot of lives that are touched by these projects. Certainly the things that they're learning, in the research setting transcend to that environment too. Communication, critical thinking, synthesizing across lots of scientific disciplines, all
Right.
useful skills.
That resonates with me too, in terms of thinking about how we want to offer more and more of our students those opportunities.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well, we are incredibly fortunate to have you here at Wake Forest.
Thank you.
I've loved hearing about your research and your teaching and your dreams. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.